Hello, friends. Today we're going to be talking about an episode of Mr. Robot from Season 3, Episode 8, Don't Delete Me. It was probably one of my favorite episodes in the whole series, up there, along with a bunch of other ones like Conflict from Season 4, along with many others. But this one I feel is very underrated, and it's really underappreciated by, I think, a lot of people, and most people see it as a filler episode, but I think it's more than that. I think it's a real good character episode. So first off, I'm gonna roll the introduction because that really helps set the tone to it, because it's a flashback from Elliot's childhood. You only get a handful of flashbacks in the whole show, and this is probably one of the last flashbacks Elliot has with his father in the show. So let's roll it.
It's okay, I'll get it out of my system before the movie, don't you worry. Here. All right, dump them on in there. Come on. You know what to do. Come on, kiddo, shake them up. You don't want any?
Told you I didn't want to come.
No, but... Well, it's movie night. Is it the movie? I thought you wanted to see Shallow Grave. I hear it's pretty good. Maybe we could see this, Jerky Boys thing. Maybe it's not sold out yet.
I want to go home.
How long are you gonna be mad at me? Told you I was sorry.
You're not sorry. You're just sick and don't want to admit it.
You're right. I made some mistakes. I wish I could have been a better father to you. All I'm asking is that you forgive me. You think you'll ever be able to do that?
No.
Yeah. Maybe we should leave.
Somebody call 911.
Shh. The movie's about to start.
Welcome. Your movie will begin shortly. Please keep our theaters clean by disposing of your trash in the specified waste containers. Food and refreshments are available in the lobby. Gift certificates are also available on special occasions. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
So there's probably a lot of questions you're probably asking yourself about this scene, this introduction to the episode. Probably wondering why. Why are they showing this memory? I mean, it's one of Elliot's final moments with his father before he passes shortly after. And you can tell they aren't on good terms, as Elliot refuses to accept his dad's apology for his past mistakes. And I'm not going to spoil anything, because at Season 4 you kind of understand why Elliot is acting that way towards his father. So, not gonna spoil anything. You'll have to figure that out for yourself. So you should probably go watch Mr. Robot then, if you really want to know. But anyways, as Elliot follows, he collapses. Elliot picks up his father's Mr. Robot jacket, and he heads into the theater with it on, and he sits down and looks at the empty seat next to him and tells whoever's sitting next to him to be quiet because the movie's about to start. Now, who exactly is Elliot talking to? Which is the question I thought. Originally, I thought he was talking to Mr. Robot. I thought that's who Elliot was talking to. But, that was on my first viewing. Watching it, I've seen this episode many, many times. I always revisit it because I just love this episode so much. But I've kind of come to think that this is probably the earliest memory where you get to see Mr. Robot. Elliot's subconsciousness take over. Or Elliot's subconsciousness of Mr. Robot take over him. And maybe possibly where he was born. So this scene might actually be shown through Mr. Robot's eyes and not actually Elliot's. But again, if that's the case, who was Mr. Robot talking to in the theater? And I personally think that he's talking to us, the viewer, and he's telling us to be quiet because of all the maybe anxiety and how the viewer may be panicking because we know Elliot's dad is out there on the ground, passed out, collapsed, presumed maybe dead, but we know he didn't die yet. He died like a couple weeks after this, and I think that's just him telling us to be quiet as the movie starts. And then as the movie does start, the aspect ratio of the show changes. It goes from 16:9 to 0.35:1. So the aspect, it's like we are watching the movie that young Elliot is watching of himself, but in the future almost. So it's kind of cool, I guess. But yeah, that really kind of sets the tone for this episode being very dark and bleak. What exactly is this episode about? Well, it's about Elliot and how Elliot deals with loss, grief, guilt, mainly all three of those together. Because Elliot was unable to, in the episodes prior, stop an attack, a cyber bombing attack that took out various E-Corp facilities, killing thousands of people. And Elliot blames himself for that. Even though it wasn't completely his fault, he tried to stop it. He was just never got to see the bigger picture of what exactly was in store. And because of that, he hasn't left his apartment in like over 3 weeks. He doesn't talk to anyone. He doesn't want to go on anymore. He doesn't see the point. And he's also dealing with the guilt of Trenton Mobley, his F-Society associates / friends, just becoming a victim to this. They were framed as the bombers, or the party that caused the bombings in the various East Corp facilities, but that's not true. It was set up. And Elliot partially feels responsible for that, along with their deaths, because of it. Because he just simply knows. He's the only one that knows, well, one of the only couple of people that know that this isn't true. And who exactly else does Elliot blame for this? Well, he blames Mr. Robot. And this is one of the few episodes you actually don't see Mr. Robot in a Mr. Robot episode, so you very rarely ever see that. And the other being Angela Moss, his childhood best friend, that she was manipulated into helping in the cyber bombings, playing a role in it, but I really don't blame her. She was just a puppet in all this, and she was manipulated, so. But I can see why Elliot can be a bit angry with her. So you can see the dilemma that Elliot has in this episode, with bearing all this guilt, and he has a lot of weight on his shoulders right now, as you can see, and he kind of just doesn't know how to deal with it, and he tries deleting Trenton and Mobley to start with that, but that does really nothing for him. He then tries to delete Mr. Robot because he blames Mr. Robot for what happened, and he later goes on to buy drugs from this person named Hard Andy because he plans on killing himself. At least what it seems like with morphine pills. Because he struggled with morphine in the past, but I guess he decided enough was enough and he was gonna end it here in this episode. That was until Trenton's little brother, Mohammed, showed up, and he was probably the unexpected savior of this episode. The person that Elliot needed most.
It's a lot of pills. Are you sick?
What are you doing here?
What are you doing here?
Where are your parents?
Who cares? I don't need a babysitter.
Elliot then gets stuck with Mohammed for the day because his parents are out of town and he is locked out of his house.
Do you like TV?
No.
Do you like horses?
No.
Do you like Wii U?
No.
Do you like movies?
I used to.
I've never been to the movies. My parents say it's too expensive.
That sucks.
Would you take me?
Take you where?
To the movies? Duh.
So they end up going to the movies. And it turns out it's Back to the Future Day. So Back to the Future is playing at the movies. And it turns out that, Back to the Future was a huge staple of Elliot's childhood, as even back in the day he dressed as Marty for Halloween while his dad dressed up as Doc. Elliot and Angela also grew up on Back to the Future as well. In Season 1 they were supposed to get high and watch it together, but obviously that never happened. So you can tell that today is actually a pretty important day, and it's kind of ironic that it's today for Elliot.
Today's the day that Marty travels into the future. I've wanted to see this movie on this day since I was your age. So weird that it's today.
Why?
What makes sense to you?
Mohammed then bails on Elliot during the movie while watching Back to the Future to go to a mosque and pray. And this leads Elliot to tracking Mohammed down, and, a little argument entices between them. Because they're both actually very similar and different at the same time. Because they're both presented with I think, very similar situation of guilt that they both feel somehow. And it kind of comes out in the mosque.
Why did you bail on me at the theater? I would have come here with you if that's what you wanted.
No, you wouldn't. You keep saying you have something you have to do.
I do have something to do. Now, come on, we're going back.
Why did you come to our house?
Yo, this isn't cool, okay? I gotta go.
Is it that important?
Yes.
Why?
It's none of your business.
You're a baby.
You're annoying.
You are.
This is a nightmare.
You are.
So are you.
I wish you were dead.
So do I!
You then find out that Elliot isn't the only one dealing with this guilt. It's Mohammed too. He feels guilty about his sister being gone as well. And this leads Elliot to explaining to Mohammed that it had nothing to do with him, that his sister being gone isn't his fault at all. Elliot then goes to express his guilt towards Mohammed that his sister being gone is his fault, even though it's not completely Elliot's fault, but that's the way Elliot feels.
Sometimes I feel like I did something bad that made Shama leave.
You didn't do anything wrong. All right. I'm gonna give you 5, and then we're gonna go.
I'm not going anywhere. Just leave me alone.
It wasn't your fault. Or hers. It was mine. All of it. So don't blame her or yourself. can blame me.
Mohammed and Elliot, I think opening up to each other like that they both expressing their feeling of guilt, kind of helped them understand each other's situation better, I believe. And I think they both came to like each other more because of that, and because they could understand what was going on inside both characters. This led to like a real heart-to-heart conversation with Elliot and Mohammed directly after this, which was really nice and genuine, I felt like, because they knew they were going through a similar situation, it seemed like. So after opening up to each other, I think it helped them mend a better relationship between the two, because they could finally understand what was going on between them.
Did you know I could be president of the United States?
Yeah?
My sister couldn't be. She wasn't born here. My mom and dad couldn't either. I'm the only person in my family who could be president. Isn't that cool? If I were president, I would be able to stay here, in the house we live in. I would find a way to bring back my sister. I'd put the real bad guys in jail. And I'd make everyone eat Pop-Tarts for dinner. And I'd make everyone be nice to me.
So you'd be a dictator.
What's a dictator?
It's like a really bad president.
Can you be president?
Probably not.
So you're like my sister? You weren't born here?
No, I was.
Where?
New Jersey.
Really? Me too. What part?
Washington Township. Where were you born?
Trenton.
This then leads Elliot taking Mohammed back home, where it turns out Mohammed had the key the whole time, but besides the point. This scene where Elliot takes him home is probably one of my favorite scenes in all of Mr. Robot. It's really up there. It's one of the best scenes I've seen. Well, just overall this episode. This episode has taught me a lot about life, I feel like, about forgiveness and stuff like that. And this conversation between Elliot and Mohammed always gets me every time, pretty much. Gets me right in the feels. And I don't know. Kind of helped make me believe that maybe things do get better. Whether it's time that heals, or maybe a person that helps guide you, or something like that. Which I felt like Mohammed really helped Elliot more than Elliot helped Mohammed, but they both helped each other in the end, I think. Understand and deal with guilt, and I think it helped them both realize that they still have life ahead of them. They still have time to go on and live. So I don't know, it just really, this scene.
You had the keys this whole time?
Thanks for taking me to the movies. Wait. What's your name?
Elliot.
Thanks, Elliot. Sorry I made you late. Hope you can still do your important thing. Hey, Elliot. Can I see you again?
Yeah. Before you go, I'll take you to see The Martian. It's always better to see movies on the big screen.
Really?
Yeah.
Thanks, Elliot. I think you'll like it. Matt Damon is awesome. Stay here. I've got something for you. Because you said you were sick. I...
This then leads Elliot to go over to Angela's apartment and sort of forgive her and want to talk to her, realizing that maybe this wasn't all her fault, and Elliot not forgiving her or blaming her for this isn't going to help anything, I think he realized after the encounter with Mohammed. And who else comes back? Well, Mr. Robot comes back, because you kind of come to see that Mr. Robot's always going to be a part of Elliot, whether he likes it or not, and Elliot has really no say in it. Mr. Robot is as much a part of Elliot as Elliot is a part of Mr. Robot, you come to realize, it seems like. So really, Elliot kind of come to terms with all this and realize that maybe there are still things left for him to do.
Maybe there are still things left for me to do.
Overall, I felt like this episode presented Elliot with a similar situation they had in his childhood, with his father originally asking him for forgiveness in the movie theater, and then his father collapsing and dying. He never really ever forgave his father. Which, in this episode, well, further on in the episode after the flashback, you kind of see Elliot's sort of in a similar situation where he can't forgive himself, he can't forgive Angela, can't forgive Mr. Robot, and he's pretty much gonna kill himself because of it, because he doesn't really see a point to go on again. But Mohammed, Trenton's little brother, the person who Elliot feels guilty for killing his sister, well, not directly killing his sister, but feels responsible for her death, I should say, comes in and sort of guides Elliot in a way, but he kind of helps Elliot come to terms with everything, and Elliot kind of helps him come to terms with everything, which is nice. I think we've all been sort of in a similar situation to this episode before. Well, maybe not everyone. Something like this, where you have been sort of stuck, and you really don't know what to do, and you really can't find a reason to keep going on. However, maybe in time, or maybe there's this person that comes along that really helps make you realize that maybe there is still a reason to keep going, and maybe you'll still deal with guilt or whatever and stuff like that, but there's other things, there's other reasons to really keep on going, and maybe find forgiveness. If you can find a reason to be able to forgive, maybe it's a good thing to not hold on to that hate for so long, because it really doesn't help, and it doesn't really help heal you, I don't think, I would say, in my opinion. So I would say this episode really helped flesh Elliot as a character. You being able to see him deal with guilt and loss and stuff was, honestly, I really enjoyed watching him try to make things right as much as he could, but obviously he can't bring back Trenton and Mobley. Even though he tried. Well, he did try to bring him back, but he tried to make things right as much as he could. And I think that's really all you can do or ask for out of anyone, or or yourself really is just try. Whether or not it's good enough, I guess that's up to you to decide. But you just gotta keep on going. You know, don't delete me.